Hey everyone, welcome back again to the next video, and in this video we're going to be solving a new question of Leetcode. That's a today's challenge question. So it's a very nice question from linked list, and it's kind of a similar one which was there yesterday as well, wherein we were supposed to just swap the nodes given by kth times from the starting and from the last point. Over here as well, we just have to do a similar kind of logic. We just have to swap the nodes, and there are 2-3 different ways that we have in order to solve this question, but I will be just discussing the most optimized solution which we can do with O(n) time of traversal, and there is now going to be space complexity as O of 1. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into the logic first and see what kind of thing that we have to do in order to solve this particular question, and then basis on that we'll try to formulate that to the code. Okay, so you can see that from the picture itself, you can just get to the logic that what it is trying to ask you. So given the linked list, which is 1 2 3 4, you just have to swap the pairs. So that means the pair 1 2 is going to get as 2 and 1, and from 3 and 4 you have to make it as 4 and 3. So that means we just have to work in pairs. So every time we have to go through the traversal of the linked list, and we have to consider the pair, and basis on that we just have to swap it. So 1 and 2 will become 2 and 1, 3 and 4 will become 4 and 3. So if there is empty, and then we just have to return the empty linked list, and if there is only one single element which is there, then we have to just return it. Alright, so let's try to just see the logic, what exactly we can just get to know from this particular picture and the condition which is given to us. So the thing is that if I'll have to say that what exactly is the intuition and what exactly is the logic that we have to convert it. So see, the thing is that what exactly we have to do. So every time, even if I'm going for the single traversal, then I have to take at least 2 nodes every time in order to do some sort of a manipulation or some kind of a logic. If I have to just put into the question, then I definitely have to take 2 elements at least for that particular node, and then on that way I will be just doing my traversal. And even if I'll have to go for 3 and 4, then also I have to just simply skip this particular first 2 position, and I have to start working on the next 2 nodes. Alright, so that is something that I have to do. So in order to do that, what I'll be doing is that I'll be just creating a dummy node, and also at the same time, so firstly let me tell you one more point which is quite a bit important one. So see, the thing is that let's say if for this particular linked list which is given to me 1 2 3 4, if I'm able to convert 2 to 1, then my first is gonna get connect to 3, and then 3 is connected to 4. So what that means is that whatever the connection that we have from 2 to 3, that has to be broken. If that will be broken, then only I will be able to convert that to my logic which I actually need at the end. So that means if 2 and 3 will be broken, then 2 will be connected to 1, and after that this particular point which is that first is connected to the second node, then that means first will be connected to the first to 3. So that means after breaking this particular point, I have to create this kind of a linkage from 1 to 3, right? I hope that makes sense. So basically it's just nothing the way we do in the normal. If we have to just reverse a linked list, then also we try to break certain points in the nodes. Over here as well, we have to do the similar kind of thing, that first is basically connected to 2 and 2 is connected to 3. I have to break 2 to 3, and I have to make 2 to 1, and also this 1 which was originally connected to second has to be connected to the first to 3. That's how we will be able to proceed further. And similarly, once this particular connection is done, we have to do the same thing over here as well. Initially, so basically this 3 and 4 are connected. Let's say if we have some more points over here, let's some more linkages, then in that particular case as well, this 3 and 4 will be broken, and this 4 and 5 will be broken. So 4 will be now connected to 3, and this 4 will be now connected to basically 3, and 3 will be now connected to 5. So that means every time, every single iteration, we have to consider the pairs, and also at the same time we just have to break the linkages and have to connect it with the right particular node. Alright, so let's try to think that how we can proceed further. So firstly, what I will do, because at the end I will be creating a complete different linked list, a final linked list that will be my answer. So originally what I'll do, I will be just creating a dummy node which may be like anything which would be having any kind of a value, maybe -1 or 0. Once that is done, what I'll do, from my original linked list, from my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 linked list, I will be taking the points one by one. All right, so let me show you how I'm going to be doing it. So for this particular dummy node, I will be calling this as my current node, and whatever the points, like let's say originally, because this 1, 2, 3, 4 is basically given to us 1, 2, 3 and this 4. All right, so this is, let's say, connected to null. This is originally connected to null. All right, so this is my original linked list which is given to me, and what I'll say, this dummy node being my current node. So this is my current node which I have originally given to me. So now from there only, I will say that this current node is initially connected to something called as my first node, and also this first node is basically connected to my second node. So this is something which is given to me. All right, all right. So this is my second node and this is my first node which is originally given to me. So what I'll do over here from this particular point, it's just that simple swapping has to be done, and then we will be able to move forward with the question. So basically, whenever I'll start my execution, I will be considering these three initial nodes, because dummy node is not something which I'm starting. This is just my starting point where I'm just simply standing over here and I'm calling it as my current node. But talking about my first and second node, this is basically my the two pair of the linked list of the original linked list which is given to me. So that means I have to do the operation on this first and second node. And how will I be doing my operation? Just simply nothing. I will just simply break this particular point, that which is, so basically you can see that my second is now connected to 3. So simply firstly, the very first thing, the very first state of code which I will be writing is that I will connect. So this is my current node which is already going to be I'll just keep it at keep this particular point over here. I will start to do one thing, that I will connect this first to 3, because eventually I have to move forward. I have to connect this first, because first is now connected to 3 at the end. So that means also I will be just connecting this first to 3, so that I will be able to break this particular point. That second is originally connected to 3. I need to make this first to be connected to 3, because by this way what's going to happen, let's imagine for a fact now my first and also my second both are connected to 3. This is something that's going to happen initially if I'll just write down this particular condition, that my first has to be connected to 3. And because at the end also we are creating a new node, so I will start to do one thing, that current.next, I will make that as my second. So simply this is the code which I will be writing down. I will just giving you the snippet over here, that how exactly the logic is going to work. So now that the first is now connected to 3, I will be able to move forward. I will be just simply making that current.next is equals to second, and also this current.next, which is going to be simply connected to first. Now that I have originally connected my first to 3, I can just simply make this as my chain. I will be able to work on my first pair by this way. I hope that makes sense. Simply we are just doing 3 simple steps in this whole particular code. Originally we started with this current node, which is my dummy node. Once that is done, I will start to connect my first node to this third node. Once that is done, I can make current connected to the second node, second connected to the first node, and first, which was originally done, which was connected to 3, the answer is done. I'm able to work on my first pair. Once this piece of code is done, we will start doing our iteration. We will just put that in the while loop, and by that way, we will be able to get to our final answer. All right. So the theoretical and the discussion part has been so much. Let's try to just write down the code and we will see the answer, that what's going to come at the end. Okay. So firstly, I'm just writing that down just as the base condition, so that at this point will also be very much clear for the viewers. What I want to do is that if my, okay, let me make this as big screen. All right, so what I want to do is that the very first condition, that if my head is equals to null, or my head dot next is equals to null. So originally you don't need to really write down this particular condition, because the way we will be writing our logic for this question, we actually going to be covering up this condition as well. But to understand this point very well from the examples, because if my head is null or if my head dot next is null, then eventually I just want to return the head. That's the very first condition from the example which we can observe. But at the same time, this is something which we don't actually need, but I'm just writing that down. Okay, so let's proceed further. Firstly, I'll be just, okay. So this is my list node, and I will be creating my dummy node just to, start with the code, that list node, and I'll just make it as 0 so that we can just simply start writing down our linked list that we actually want at the end. All right, so this is the dummy node that I've already created. And from this dummy node, what I want to do, because this is my dummy and my dummy dot next will be my head, because this is the actual, just pictorial, the way we try to represent this particular part of the code, that we will be making our own linked list. That dummy is going to be starting in such a way, dummy 1, 2, 3, 4 till null. Okay, so this is our new linked list that we have created so far. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is dummy.next is equals to head. I also want to make my dummy as my current, so I will be making as a new node, which is current equals to dummy. All right, so this is done. Let's proceed further. We will be starting with iterations and how we are going to do it. So now that I'm starting from my dummy node, which is my current node actually, what I want to do is I want to keep a condition, because we have to work in pairs till the time my current dot next is not equals to null, and at the same time if my current dot next is not equals null, I have to keep on working on the pairs that I'm getting in my linked list. So this is the main condition that we want to achieve, and this is something that we want to keep on working on, so that we will be inside of our while loop and we will be able to do our operations that we want to do, that we want to go for. All right, so this part is done. And what next we want to do? Now that we are inside of our while loop, let's define our first and the second node, that how exactly that's going to work out. So firstly, list node, which is going to be my first, and this is going to be my current dot next, because current is basically what? It is a dummy node. That's something which we are sitting at. But I want to make my first and the second node on which I'll start working and doing my operations. Dot next. So these are the two nodes that I have already defined now. Now what? I want to move forward. I want to start doing my operations. I'm sitting at my dummy node, that is my current node, but I want to do the operation on these two particular nodes. So the very first thing, like I mentioned, what's the very first thing that I told you about what we have to do? So this is dummy 1, 2, 3, 4. Firstly, we want to connect our this 1, 2, 3, because eventually that is something that we want. Our first node has to be connected to 3. So this is something that I'm going to be doing first. And how I am going to do that, I will just simply make my current, or I can just say first is already there, first dot next. Yeah, so I can say first dot next is equals to second dot next. So over here, let me just also write down in the comments that what exactly is happening. So originally we were having 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that I have connected my 1, 2, 3, and also we were pretty much aware of the fact that 2 was also something which was connected to 3, right? So 2 is also connected to 3. Now that my 1 is now also connected to 3, that is something that we have done, because second is eventually definitely connected to 3, which is originally given to us. But we want to achieve something that we want to go for, that first should be connected to 3. This is something that we want at the answer. So now this part is done. Let's move forward. Okay, the second is already connected to 3. Okay, let's proceed further. Okay, let's see what we want to achieve next. First is now connected to next, second dot next. Let's see what we want to achieve next. All right, so this is first is now connected to 3. Now the current is that where we are sitting at. we want the current dot next to be second. All right. So from here, now that the first dot next is become second dot next, which is my first is now connected to 3. Let's proceed further and make current dot next. Let me just see that. All right. So this dummy current has to be now. So we want the current dot next to be connected to second. All right. So this is something that we want to achieve. Current dot next is equals to second, and I want to do current dot next. This is going to be my first, because now that I've already connected this with the first, and at the end I want to make current, which will be equals to this as my first. Let me show you what I have done over here. All right, so let's go with step-by-step approach. Initially what we did, because over here you can see that we are creating a complete new linked list at the end. Firstly, we connected this first with the third. In the next step, current dot next, because current is what? Current is nothing but just the dummy node. And this dummy node, now current dot next will become, this current will be now connected to the second node, which is my 2, because over here what we have defined, current dot next is my second node. So now the current is now connected to the second. And also from this particular statement, what we have done, that current dot next I have already made as 2 in my this previous step in line number 30, but at the same time now what I'm doing, that I'm making it as my first. And originally over here what we did, that first is connected to the third, right? I hope that makes sense. It is actually leading up to the answer that we want. And what I did at the end is nothing but I made my current as this. I made my current as first. So that means my current now will be sitting at this particular location, at this particular step. I hope that makes sense. And this was able to, decipher the logic that we wanted to achieve. Okay, so let's just return the answer at the end. And what's the answer that we want to return? That we want to return the dummy dot next, because initially we have stored this particular location of current in the dummy node, and that is what we want to return at the end. I hope that makes sense. I hope the logic is pretty much clear to you. If you get any kind of a confusion, just try to watch the video once again. I tried my best to explain the things. And still, if you have any kind of a doubt, you can put that in the comment box. And let me just show you that this particular logic is going to work. Yeah, it's accepting, and let's try to submit it. So yeah, this is a pretty simple logic. It's just that just go with the flow, just go with the story that you have formulated in order to write down the code. And yeah, by that way you will be able to achieve the desired result. All right, so if you have any kind of a doubt, you can put that in the comment box, and see you next time, guys.